What's going on, guys? Today we're working on the 240 and we're going to be doing a leak down test. So I've never actually done a leak down test before, so this is going to be a first for me. I picked this up at Harbor Freight. It was like 80 bucks. I watched a video on how to use it, so we're going to try it out. So here it is. It comes with the actual tester, hose, and it comes with these adapters for different spark plug threads. So let's go over to the 240 and throw this on. To do this, you also need a compressor. So to do the leak down test, we need to get each cylinder to top dead center before we put the tester on it, which means I have to spin the crank pulley. But if you notice how close my crank pulley is to my fans, that's not going to happen. So I'm going to take the fan shroud out and hopefully that gives us enough room. So now that we have the fan shroud over there, we have a ton of room here now. Hopefully this fits now. Oh, look at that. And I took all the spark plugs out just so it makes it easier for me to turn it. So now to find top dead center, we will stick something long in the cylinder and wait till it gets to the highest point. So right now we have cylinder number 1 at top dead center. So now we can put the tester on it. So we just finished cylinder number 1. So I'm going to do the rest and then I'm going to make a list and I'll put it on the screen so you guys can check it out. So I'm going to put the numbers on the screen right there. So basically what those numbers mean is we set the gauge to 100 psi. So the incoming pressure is 100 psi that's going into the cylinder, and this gauge tells us how much pressure we are losing from the cylinder. So this was always set to 100, and this would always be less than 100 because you're never going to get 100 and 100. There's always going to be some psi lost through the piston rings because it's not a complete seal, but all the cylinders within 5 psi is really good. If a cylinder has lost around 15 psi, that is really bad. And there's ways to tell where it's losing it. If it's losing it and you have your radiator cap off and you see bubbles, then that's telling you that the head gasket is cracked. If you hear it coming out of your exhaust, then that is the exhaust valves not sealing. If you hear it on the intake side, that tells you one of the intake valves aren't sealing. If you hear it from the dipstick, that tells you it's your rings, which you're gonna hear it from your dipstick because there's always that minimal amount of psi lost. And I wasn't hearing it from anywhere except very faintly from the dipstick. And as you saw from the numbers, cylinder 3 lost the most at 4 psi, which is like nothing. So that confuses me when I look at the numbers from our compression test, because the numbers from our compression test showed that we were between 130 and 135 for all 6, when we should be at 160. So I think that it was the AutoZone compression tester that we used that was giving us a super low reading, which is amazing news. That means that this motor doesn't have to come out. We don't have to rebuild it. Everything's cool. Now, going forward, we need to fix the coil pack harness, because I'm not sure if I showed you guys it, but I'll go get it right now. So this is our Wiring Specialties coil pack harness. I never had any issues with this up until I put a bracket on for the LS coils to make them coil on plug. When I did that, I was still running the OEM cover that goes in between the 2 valve covers. There wasn't a lot of room between the top of the coil packs and the actual cover. So what it ended up doing is stuff like that, where it's just totally messed up and smushed the wires. So I think that is where we are getting our breaking up and boost. That could also be contributing to the lack of power below 3000 RPM. So we have 2 options. One is order a new coil back harness, which I think is like 150 bucks or something. It's not exactly cheap. Or we can buy these plugs as pigtails and modify the harness and then cut these plugs off and wire in the new ones. So that might be the option that we go with because it's not too hard to do that. So I just ordered 8 of the LS coil pigtails because I can only get them in 1, 4, or 8. So I was like, fuck it, let's just get all 8. So we'll have 2 spares in case this happens again, which hopefully it doesn't. So that's amazing news. Like, I'm really happy. The plan before I found this out was to take that head right there, get it resurfaced, which we're still going to do just because we need to do it. And then we're going to throw in ARP head studs and a new head gasket and then throw it on the 240, which wouldn't be a bad thing to do. But what we're going to do instead is we're going to turn the boost back down to 12 because in the desert I'm only making like between 10 and 12 psi anyways because I have no traction. So we're going to turn it down to 12 to be safer because stock is 11. And then we're just going to beat the shit out of this motor because clearly it can take it. It was doing 17.5 pounds with no issues. And from here forward, I will will always be doing leak down tests over compression tests. I'll always do both, but I'll start with the leak down test because that tells you way more than the compression test does. We still have the spare motor here. It's under my dash. It's all wrapped up so it doesn't get any more shit stuck onto it. Because if you didn't know, I bought it off a guy who had it for 2 years sitting in his garage, and it was just covered in like overspray and stuff, and it's been rebuilt. I can tell it's been rebuilt. Everything is new on it when we opened it up. If you haven't seen that video, check it out. One of the corners. So what I want to do with the spare motor is actually like build it with forged internals and do all that fun stuff, because I want to build a motor because that'd be awesome. And then once this motor is ready, throw it in the 240, take the 240 motor out, assuming it hasn't already blown up, and then that'll just sit as a spare motor. Worst case scenario, something happens to the Skyline, I need a new motor. So that's really good news. That put me in a really good mood. So this has been a little bit of a short video because there's not really much going on, but it's been a very positive video. So thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like if you did, comment down below, and then hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.